African artifacts, historical heritages, and many relics were taken to other countries abroad, particularly to the Western nations in one or the other way. Ethiopia, as one of the African nations, couldn't escape the fate. The country recently saw the repatriation of artifacts from abroad, which are believed to significantly strengthen Ethiopia's heritage, research capabilities, and the tourism sector. Actually, the artifacts were the gifts from the Ethiopian Monarchy to that of a family very familiar to Ethiopia. Wyss, being the grandson of the person who was gifted the artifacts, returned the 12 national treasures along with his niece Alice Wyss to the Institute of Ethiopian Studies of the Addis Ababa University. During the handover ceremony, Minister of Tourism Salamawit Kasa praised the Wyss family for the donations they made in collaboration with the Embassy of the Republic of Germany in Ethiopia.
It is absolutely an honor and a privilege to address you on this historic occasion, marking the donation of artifacts by Professor Ramon Wyss and his niece Alice Wyss to the Institute of Ethiopian Studies at Addis Ababa University. The 12 artifacts, originally from Ethiopia, were acquired by Franz Wyss, the grandfather of Professor Ramon, during his tenure as the German envoy to Ethiopia in the 1920s. They include gifts from Regent Teferi Mekonnen, as well as items commissioned or purchased by Franz and his wife, Hedwig. Among them are 2 crowns, decorated shields, a sword, and a belt, and different paintings. Distinguished guests, these artifacts offer a unique glimpse into Ethiopian arts and the craftsmanship of the 1920s. They will enrich the remarkable collection of the institutes and the museum and serve as a valuable material for comprehensive research.
On behalf of the Addis Ababa University, President of the University Samuel Kifle said, "It's an honor to collect artifacts of Ethiopian origin from various countries and individuals through negotiations and agreements."
At Addis Ababa University, through our Institute of Ethiopian Studies, we have been collecting, preserving, and maintaining the artifacts and heritage of Ethiopia and Ethiopian origin in this beautiful museum that's going to be renovated with the support from Italian government, Italian cooperation. Our friends and partners from Italy are sitting at the back. We thank you all for considering this heritage to be renovated and conserved. We also thank all other partners for this initiative. At Addis Ababa University, we will continue to do this national mandate and mission as a flagship university to the nation, and also see Ethiopia's future to depend and based on its strong past, and that would shape its prosperity in the future.
On his part, Ferdinand von Wyss, the charge d'affaires of the Embassy of the Republic of Germany in Addis Ababa, clearly stated that the role of the embassy is just facilitating the private donation, not donating the artifacts.
It is indeed a great pleasure, and I think you put it very rightly. The German embassy, and I think you did it very correctly, is only supportive. We are not the ones donating. It is a private donation by the family Wyss to the Institute of Ethiopian Studies. But we are very happy that we can be a part of it, that we can be supportive to it, because we experienced, my dear colleagues experienced very much so, that it takes a lot of efforts to make from an idea, from a vision, from a dream, from talks to practice, to bring these items here to Ethiopia, to make this private donation possible. 12 beautiful Ethiopian artifacts that will be donated today, that are donated to the Institute of Ethiopian Studies. And I have to admit they were coming to the embassy, and my colleagues had to push me back in a way because I was so impressed by these artifacts. I was really admiring them, and I still do so. Following the Honorable Minister, let me take this moment and remember Mr. Fritz Wyss, your grandfather, who was in a way my predecessor here in Addis Ababa. He was the envoy of Germany in the 20s, from 21 to 28. His time in Ethiopia was marked not only by strengthening the political relationship between our two countries, but it was also marked by his personal, and I will add, and you mentioned her already, by his wife's keen personal interest in Ethiopia, in its people, its history, and its culture. In the course of his mission, the Wyss family built very close relationship with Empress Sauditu and Ras Tafari, whom we all know as the Emperor Haile Selassie. And as a diplomat myself, I look back a little bit and I try to imagine, do I manage to work as, let's say, professional as my predecessor did, to really establish a close relationship with, well, what would it be? The Prime Minister, perhaps, today. I think it's a difficult task to fulfill, or it was a great achievement of my predecessor, your grandfather or your great-grandfather, who did so, who did establish a very personal relationship with the emperor, or the to-be emperor himself.
The donor, the grandson of Franz Wyss, Professor Raymond Wyss, indicated he and his niece are very proud to donate the artifacts to the Institute of Ethiopian Studies of Addis Ababa University, one of the finest universities in Africa.
And the Institute of Ethiopian Studies, where our family's donation will be placed, belong to one of the finest universities on this continent. So congratulations to you and to the university. My grandparents came to Ethiopia in 1921 and left in 1928, almost 100 years ago, taking with them gifts from the emperor and items they had purchased. During that time, my father was born at the embassy, and it was in 1923. Empress Sevditu gave him the name Yoshwana, the man who comes from Shoa. And later, the regent Rastafari, Emperor Haile Selassie later, gave to my family on the occasion of my father's birth the crown with the lion hair, particularly saying it was a donation, it was the birth of a son underlining. But the donation here consists of two parts, one of which is displayed here before you. So these are gifts I received from my father in various stages of my life. The first actually is a small leather shield that was hanging in my room as a boy all the time, alongside with Ethiopian painting hunting scene, which still hangs in our living room today. A similar Akleli crown, as you see here, is actually prominently displayed at the Musée du Quai Branly in Paris. I got this information from Alula. And of course, with this donation, we wish to share the beauty of these artifacts with the general public and contribute to preserving the heritage and history, the rich heritage and history of Ethiopia, the country of my father's birth. The second part of the donation consists of the many photographs taken by my grandparents during their stay. My grandfather, who had a strong interest in technology, also brought a film camera with him when he came to Ethiopia.
Director of the Institute of Ethiopian Studies at Addis Ababa University, Yohannes Adge, on his part, marked the occasion as a great coincidence to the 75th year celebration of the founding of the university.
This is a special event because Addis Ababa University is celebrating its 75th Diamond Jubilee. And therefore, this also gives add value for our anniversary. Following the rigorous reforms that Addis Ababa University has been undertaking, the Institute of Ethiopian Studies has about 4 centers, and one of which is the Center for Museum Studies. Therefore, this Center for Museum Studies is dedicated to collect, manage, and display Ethiopian artifacts that represent different ethno-linguistic communities in Ethiopia. So we collect from individuals, organizations, here and abroad. And this one is one of our common activities. And we are trying to draft policies, how we manage, how we collect artifacts, and how we study these artifacts for the unity, diversity, and solidarity of Ethiopian people. So this artifacts handover ceremony is a part and parcel of our primary activities.
Minister Salamawit reiterated the restituted artifacts would not only be research objects, but tourist attractions in the times to come.
These restituted items will also become an important attraction for tourists as well, complementing the artifacts returned to Ethiopia after being looted from Magdala by British force in 1868 and subsequently reparted through Afromet, the Association for the Return of the Magdala Ethiopian Treasures. I wish to express my deepest gratitude to Professor Ramon and Alice for their generous and exemplary initiative. I also extend my thanks to the Embassy of the Federal Republic of Germany for their support. Furthermore, I would like to congratulate Dr. Johannes, Director of the Institute, for organizing this event as well. And I also like to thank Sophie's for facilitating this process. In addition to today's celebration, an accompanying exhibition of photographs taken by Franz and Hedwig Wyss will also open tomorrow afternoon at the Goethe Institute. These photographs offer fascinating insights into life in Ethiopia in the 1920s. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, finally, I would like to note that these 2 linked events form part of the celebration of the 120 years of diplomatic relations between Ethiopia and Germany. They stand as a remarkable example of the enduring friendship between our 2 people and our 2 countries.
The Charge Day Affairs of the Embassy of the Republic of Germany in Addis Ababa, Ferdinand von Wyss, reminded that Empress Zawditu of Ethiopia has passed on the artifacts as gifts to the Wyss family as great tokens of friendship and respect to the then mission of Germany in Ethiopia.
You see the crown with a lion, I don't know, you call it fur or hair. This was a donation by Empress Zawditu to the family on the occasion of the birth of their child Dieter, your father, a token of friendship and respect extended to the head of the German mission and also to Fritz Wyss personally. Just to mention, please don't take me too serious, my wife just gave birth 2 weeks ago, so if anybody wants, to please feel free. No, it's not too serious, please. Now, 100 years later, these artifacts still stand as a symbol, and you mentioned it as Honorable Minister, as a symbol of the long-standing and friendly relationship between Germany and Ethiopia. Now, this crown and the other souvenirs brought as a donation from Europe, and you mentioned it's not only Germany now, it's Sweden, where you're coming from, Professor Wyss. It is of historic importance, as I understood it, and you mentioned it, of historic importance, of cultural importance for Ethiopia. And I can imagine the thinking of the Wyss family, what to do with these inherited artifacts of Ethiopia, artifacts that were given to the family, now coming as inheritance on you. And I can only applaud your decision to give this as a donation to this museum we just went through together, because this museum for tourists and Ethiopians alike will give a very good impression about what is Ethiopia, the rich history and culture, and these artifacts may contribute to this endeavor. The donation of these artifacts to the home underscores Germany's dedication to preserving Ethiopia's rich cultural heritage and fostering dialogue and understanding between our two nations. And as I've said from the very outset, it is not our donation. We are only the supportive element to this, making it happen. It is a reminder of the importance of Germany's foreign cultural educational policies, which seeks to create spaces for collaboration between scientists, societies, also besides formal diplomatic channels. And let me evoke here the 22nd edition. It's not the right word, edition, but it's the 22nd conference, international conference on Ethiopian studies. We just had the pleasure, some of you in the room here, to experience, to take part of in Havasa only a couple of weeks back. And I was excited to see how many international scientists took part in this one, amongst many Germans, which shows up to these days the keen interest of German scientists in Ethiopia's culture and history. And I was coming across young people, Germans, speaking Ge'ez, studying Amharic, and I was deeply impressed by their language knowledge.
Professor Raman Wyss underlined the artifacts would serve much better purpose in the Institute of Ethiopian Studies than staying in the Wyss family collection in his speech.
He made many film clips of life, Ethiopian life, of state visits of the family throughout the years in this country. This material has been digitized, and it's included in the donation free to use by the Institute of Ethiopian Studies and scholars in Ethiopia. So the film, as well as the memoirs of my grandmother, are also part of the collection. A selection of the photographs, as already we heard from the ambassador, will be displayed tomorrow at the Goethe Institute and will remain there on display until Christmas. My grandmother took very careful diaries during her time in Ethiopia that then were later on converted in memoirs that are unpublished, but again they're digitized and open to the public and can be read and used by scholars here alike. And I wish to underline the importance of the digital heritage. Once such material is made openly accessible, it opens new avenues for research and allows the public to engage much more deeply with their history and cultural development. So I hope that this donation will become part of a wider archive of historical documents and photographs accessible to both researchers and public. And as mentioned by many of you already, this handover ceremony would not have been possible without the support of the Society of Friends of the Institute of Ethiopian Studies, SOFIS. And I would like to express my sincere thanks to Professor Lema Brook, Alula Pankhurst, Shifra Bekele, Tenanya Tadesse, and Dr. Johannes Adige. And special thanks, of course, to the German Embassy and Sophia Stefan, whose dedication and assistance make this event possible.
The Charge d'Affaires of the Embassy of the Republic of Germany in Addis Ababa, Ferdinand von Wyss, granted a huge gratitude to the Wyss family for the generosity of donating back the artifacts to where they belong.
I would like to express our deepest gratitude to all those who have made this historic moment possible. First and foremost, many thanks to you, Professor Ramon Wyss, and your family. Alice, you're here as well. Thank you to you as the donators of this. But it's, of course, the Institute of Ethiopian Studies of the Addis Ababa University, and I think this is very important that there is a trust built in this relationship, because these are items dear to your family you are giving in the good hands of this institute, in the strong belief that this institute, and I'm sure about this, will handle it in the utmost care and will put it on display for the larger audience to really make it the intention of your donation a realization, that the large audience will have the opportunity to see and experience these items, thus being enriched by the strong, by the deeply enrooted Ethiopian culture. But, and here comes our support a little bit into it, let me also mention here the Ethiopian Customs branch, airport branch, and the Ethiopian Post Office. You might not believe it, but then the realization of bringing the artifacts here, it took us a little bit, every now a little bit heartbeat, that we really get it through the customs and that we really get it into this country. All your efforts have ensured that these artifacts could be transported to Addis Ababa safely and can now be appreciated by so many people. As we are celebrating this occasion, let me also remember the legacy of Fritz Wyss, whose life story is also, and I have to admit, as a German diplomat, emblematic of a dark chapter of German history and the history of the Federal Foreign Office. Fritz Wyss was forced into early retirement in 1934 from the Foreign Office due to his Jewish heritage, and in 1937 in final retirement. In Berlin, he is commemorated today by a Stolperstein. Whoever went to Berlin might have tumbled over a Stolperstein, one of the many brass, like this size, brass tumbling stones reminding us of the victims of the Nazi persecutions. Here in Addis Ababa, however, we wish to honor him with a unique exhibition of 51 rare photographs that he, Fritz Wyss, and together with his wife Hedwig, it was mentioned already, took during their time in Ethiopia. This exhibition, open to the public from November 21st, so the day after tomorrow, until January 10, offers a unique glimpse into Ethiopian life in the 1920s, featuring scenes from Addis Ababa, cultural festivals, and rural landscapes. And I had the opportunity to have a kind of preview. I can only recommend, and I'm very grateful to the Goethe Institute that you will host this exhibition, and we will have the pleasure to open this exhibition tomorrow. May this donation of the family Wyss and the exhibition stands as a testimony to the strength of our partnership and the significance of cultural cooperation, and I do wish that these items will be accepted, will be appraised with open arms by the large public here in Addis Ababa.
This is a very special occasion, a celebration of the return of artifacts that are being donated by Professor Ramon Wyss. He lives in Sweden, and his grandfather was the German ambassador to Ethiopia in the 1920s, And whilst he was here as the chargé d'affaires, as the envoy of Germany in Ethiopia, he collected some items. He had some commissioned, some were donated to him by the Rastafari Makonnen. He was the regent at the time. And so these items include crowns, shields, various paintings, other objects like belts and a drinking gourd. And his family decided that they would like to donate these to the Institute of Ethiopian Studies Museum. Professor Ramon had visited and he wanted to donate these items. So this is a very special occasion, a celebration of the gift, the donation of items that were in Ethiopia in the 1920s and give a very good idea of arts and crafts during the 1920s. So there has been a long history of restitution of artifacts that were looted during the British Magdala expedition of 1868 and during the Italian fascist occupation. And some items were brought back by Afromet, the Association for the Return of Magdala Ethiopian Treasures, and are in the Institute of Ethiopian Studies collection. And the Ethiopian Heritage Authority has also done a lot of excellent work in the restitution of artifacts. Recently, a shield from the Royal Ethiopian Trust and various other organizations have been involved in the return of artifacts from different countries, particularly from the UK and from Italy. So there's been a lot of efforts to return artifacts, and there is a rich heritage of Ethiopian artifacts abroad, and there is a need for a lot more initiatives. And this donation by individuals, as in the case today of Professor Ramon and his niece Alice, is one example of people who acquired artifacts from Ethiopia but believe they have a better place back where they came from.
One way it started with the birth of my father at the embassy, in the German embassy in Addis Ababa. You could say this is the starting point, and this was the point where Rastafari, later Haile Selassie, donated the crown that you see here to my family on the occasion of the birth of my father. So you could say that is the starting point of this donation. Okay. The other starting point is, of course, that many of these artifacts were at my home, some hanging on the wall and some in the cupboard. And some paintings we did not have space to hang. They were just in a roll. And my wife asked me many times, should they not belong to a museum? Why do we have them at our home? She asked me, and I agreed with her. She is right. We should give it to museums so more people can enjoy to see these beautiful artifacts. The first invitation came actually very early on. I thought, if we give it to a museum, it should be a museum in Ethiopia. That was the first thought we had. Secondly, is that we had some meeting in terms of from my university with university cooperation, where we met the ambassador to Sweden the Ethiopian ambassador to Sweden in Stockholm, and discussed the opportunity. And she made already at that time collection with this Institute of Ethiopian Studies. And of course, this has been later been supported by, for example, Professor Brooke Limmer at the University of Addis, by Dr. Alula Pankhurst, who has played a very role, and also Shifra Bekele. So many people engaged in helping bringing these items to this institute here.
So the Institute of Ethiopian Studies has the largest collection of ethnographic artifacts, paintings, icons of Ethiopia in the world. It is the main repository of this. There is also a very big collection in the National Museum, and these collections are extremely important for preserving and displaying Ethiopian heritage to people here, but also to tourists. And we had the honor today of having the Minister of Tourism, Her Excellency Wezero Salamawit Kasa came and opened this event. So this is a very big attraction for domestic tourists and international tourists. And the Institute of Ethiopian Studies is a very excellent place to come and see Ethiopian heritage that is in the country, some of it which is returned. And there's also, of course, the National Museum, and the Ethiopian Heritage Authority is doing a lot of work to bring back heritage from abroad. So my grandmother was involved in the defense of Ethiopia during the Italian occupation and afterwards, and my father has taught at Addis Ababa University, and he was involved in a number of restitution initiatives, particularly with AFRAMET, the Association for the Return of the Magdala Ethiopian Treasures, and in a sense I inherited that legacy. So I'm working closely with the Ethiopian Heritage Authority and the National Heritage Restitution Committee, and in the Society of Friends of the Institute of Ethiopian Studies, because this is a lot to do in order to promote restitution, particularly items coming up for auction. There's also human remains. There's all kinds of areas where it's important to do more in the restitution field. So I try to work with my colleagues in the Society of Friends of the Institute of Ethiopian Studies, in the Ethiopian Heritage Restitution Committee, and with the Ethiopian Heritage Authority, with the Director of the Institute of Ethiopian Studies here, Dr. Johannes, with Professor Ababau, the Director General of the Ethiopian Heritage Authority, in promoting the donations and restitution initiatives.
Okay. What's your last message?
To continue this kind of work and to congratulate Professor Ramon and Alice for doing this, for the Institute of Ethiopian Studies, the Society of Friends, the Ministry of Tourism, and Her Excellency Minister Salamawit Kasa, who opened this. It shows how important the Ethiopian government considers this to be, and hopefully this will be something that will encourage others to do the same.
I think personally it has been very touching to see this ceremony, and kind of, to me it's like they come back to a place where it in some way belongs, because these are artifacts made in Ethiopia for a time. It's Ethiopian handcraft, it's their work, so it should be seen also by the public in Ethiopia. So for me this is very touching that many of you are so grateful having them here. So I really see that the meaning of these artifacts here is much, much larger, and having them in my home. In principle, I'm not a politician, but of course it also shows that there is always opportunity for friendship between the people. I think this is probably, I would say, a symbol that there has been very strong and good relations between Germany and Ethiopia. And my family had a very good relation to Ethiopia, and my grandmother wrote books about Ethiopia. So I think it's part of this history. At this stage, I'm very much interested how nuclear science can contribute to earthquake forecasting. So we will have some discussion here with the Institute of Geophysics, Space Science and Astronomy because they do the seismic measurements here in Ethiopia. Of course, we know seismology and earthquakes are very, very important, and then can do a lot of harm and damage. And if we can improve our knowledge, particularly knowing before earthquake happening, then we can make a great contribution to human mankind. I think in principle, nuclear technology for peace, for creating energy, is very, very good. But it requires also a lot of investment in university. It requires investment in education, that you build up a high knowledge in your scientific community that can handle this kind of very advanced way to create energy. But we see many developments, and I think looking at greenhouse gas emission and climate change, nuclear energy can really make a contribution to energy safety, to energy security, and to reduce greenhouse gases. Well, in this regard, my research is not much into nuclear energy, I must say. I have been working with, let's say, communities and setting up energy platforms, let's say, societal, let's say, exchange with the public. But my interest is more basic nuclear science, university collaboration, and also right now in this earthquake forecasting. This is my main personal interest at this stage, yes.
The University of Addis Ababa, along with the federal government of Ethiopia, praised the Wyss family for donating back the artifacts and appreciated the Embassy of the Republic of Germany in facilitating the important process.